Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm just going to wait for Dr. Harper. She is here. Right, I'm in a new part of the room, so I might have to adjust this because I'm sitting on the sofa and I don't know if I'm going to be too low. No, morning. I just seen whether I was too low or not.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You know, just that.
Yeah,
that
I
aspect.
get it right because it's really hard.
You look fab, and you look fab yesterday in your photo shoot. I was so impressed with it.
I know.
How are you?
Yeah, feel really good, and it really
It
paid off.
showed. Yeah,
Yeah,
it really showed.
it was a month yesterday. That was all. That
Okay,
was
yeah, it
all.
really showed. It really,
Yeah,
really showed.
I
And
really feel like I'm getting back to me.
I don't mean in your body, but I could see the glow in
No,
your
in
face, the
myself. Yeah,
confidence. Yeah,
just
yeah,
in
yeah,
me because I just feel. I just sort of knew that it wasn't me, and I just feel
yeah,
like, okay, yeah, on the outside is great, but what comes from within here
yeah,
there's nothing better. So, like someone once said to me, they said, pleasure is from external things, but when you get actual joy from your heart,
yeah.
it's just, it's always an inside job, 100%.
I know. I like the way you put that. It's always an inside job.
Yeah, it
I'm not.
is. No, it is. It's a real inside job for me, anyway. Yeah,
Yeah,
to be more grounded, and I feel more grounded when I don't act out, which is very good to come with all about what we're going to talk about today with addiction and everything. Because when I'm, not very true to myself and I'm not grounded, then I don't feel like me really, because when the addiction comes in whatever form it wants to take, drink, drugs, shopping, sex, it can come in any ways.
yeah.
And
And that's the thing with addictive behaviors. I think it's not just one thing. Somebody who's got that addictive behavioral pattern tends to have it in a lot of aspects in their life. And I think, I'm interested to hear your story. And I think also to talk about it in relation to menopause and how it can rear its ugly head in some ways around this time, more so because women are feeling quite vulnerable and fragile. Mental health and well-being is affected. So I think it's really interesting and useful for us to touch upon it and for people to ask questions as we go through.
Yeah. And so you have worked in a rehab before, yeah?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's amazing because I never knew that either. So I want to
no.
hear your story as well.
Well, it's quite funny because I've grown up as a Muslim, so we don't drink alcohol. So I remember when I was at university learning about alcohol, and I actually struggled to get it into my head because I didn't drink at all.
Yeah.
And then I did have so towards my coming up into my last year or so, because my parents were forcing this arranged marriage on me, I thought I'd go a little bit crazy. So I got drunk one night. I thought I'd try everything. So people were buying me. Somebody said, "Do you want rum and coke?" I went, "Yeah." I'd heard about these in EastEnders, So I was like, "Yeah, vodka and whatever." And I was like, "Yes, yes, yes." So I did. I got drunk one night, but then I then never got drunk again, ever. I didn't drink again. So when somebody asked me to work in an alcohol rehab clinic, I thought, basically, I'm probably the last person you want to work in it because I don't have a clue. And I tried to say no. And I think they persuaded me to do it. And I thought, I'll do it for a little while. I loved it. I loved meeting the people. I loved seeing their journey, hearing their story, helping them. And what I actually came to realize was that addiction, whatever it is, whether it's food, and I'm very much a sugar carb kind of addict. And I think to myself, it's the same addictive pathway. It's the same issue that women have when it comes to weight, alcohol, food, sex, shopping. So you can use the same tools for any aspect on any addiction. So yeah, no, I spent about 2 or 3 years there, and it's sort of the same philosophy I try and help women with when it comes to weight. And when people are hard on people who drink alcohol and then fall off the wagon, and I say to them, well, look, when you diet, you lose weight. How often do you put that weight back on? So that's technically a relapse. So
Yeah,
don't be too hard on
absolutely.
that person.
Yeah.
So I think that's one way maybe some people can equate to it or
Yeah.
relate to it. But tell me
Yeah.
about you.
So, well, for me, I always suffered with not feeling good enough as a kid.
Yeah.
For no reason, nothing. My parents were not addicts. I wasn't sexually abused. I didn't have anything. You know, I came from a really loving family, but I just never felt good enough, even at school. I always wanted to be that other girl. I wanted to live in that house. It was just in me for no apparent reason, but it was just the way I was built. And I always had a lot of fear in around me, and sort of worry, and didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. So the minute that I discovered, I was at boarding school in Oxford, yeah,
Yeah.
in
My
Sivard,
hometown.
Sivard Ferris, yeah, just by Chipping Norton. I went to a really
Hmm.
amazing Quaker school there. You know, it's a really good school. It's a really good boarding school, and the minute that I was there, within, like, I came from South Africa, and also it was very
Okay.
hard for me to fit in. I had a South African accent. I just really didn't know the music everyone was listening to, because it was apartheid at the
Mm.
time in South
Yeah.
Africa. I had the wrong clothes. And when you're going to a secondary school and you're in your first year, it's very, it was like, wow. And I just sort of was looking around this school. Everyone was very wealthy. Everyone was very
Mm.
trendy. There was a whole mixture of people there. And I just didn't really feel good enough, and, so the minute we had a school hop and someone passed like a bottle of cider around, and we were all behind this bush, and the minute the alcohol just went down, I just felt like I discovered me.
Okay. Okay.
So it was like my best friend. It was the best thing that I could have possibly ever done. And it just made me feel like, wow, I just done everything. I can dance, I can chat up boys, I could do everything. That's what it gave me.
So it gave
And
you
then
confidence.
it gave me loads of confidence, but it just also made me just like go, yeah, when I stopped, all that fear and the worrying and not fitting in
Mm.
and all this stuff that I had. And then from then on, it just became like every sort of scene that when I was growing up, I then was a punk, and that became with lots of drink and drugs. So every sort of place that I went was always sort of had like an outfit. So I was a punk, and then I was a goth, and then I had the raving scene. Then I had so many scenes throughout my life, which was always, there was always drugs involved, like
Mm.
ecstasy or whatever, with the rave scene. And I did my thing of going to lots of festivals and doing lots of hallucinogenics. So it just
Mm.
sort of seemed my path. But I always just thought, wow, it makes me feel amazing. But then eventually, then I had my Britpop years and everything. And then eventually, after many years, it stopped working. And then that is when they say that the drugs and the drink stopped working. So it wasn't about being enjoyment. It was for
Mm-hmm.
a very long time, and I won't ever take any of those years back. But it basically just became that I became a prisoner of that. So it wasn't down to my choice. It wasn't like just for recreational and fun times. It became like I wanted to, I would get out of bed and want to have a drink.
I was going to say, did you have to get out of bed and have a
Yeah,
drink to
yeah,
get
yeah,
yourself
yeah,
going?
yes,
And if you
yeah.
didn't have a drink, did you feel withdrawal? Did you
Oh,
feel that
awful,
anxiety? Did you
awful.
feel,
And also, I
uh,
didn't even want to drink, and
yes,
I would be dry retching, and I couldn't even want it, but I would have to get a drink down me,
yeah,
because I
to
would wake
function?
up with, yeah, it wasn't like I would wake up with, I could sort of, I would feel like I had the worst hangover, but it was, I was just like, I knew that even if I had like a sip of vodka, I would be, I would be able, I would feel normal again, and it was, and then when you put down one thing, so this was about, I probably say I first went to rehab about 15 years ago. And
So how did you know you needed to go to rehab? One of the things is the way that alcohol works in the brain, it works on our reward pathway. So, like you said, you felt good, you felt disinhibited, you felt on top of the world, you could function, you could, perform, you could
yeah,
be the best. But then, like you said, then it stops working because
yeah,
you get to a point of tolerance. And really then what you're doing is
Topping
you're
it up.
just topping it up, yeah, because there's a deficiency in your brain. And if you don't have it, then
Yeah.
actually you can't function. And one of the things, just to say to anybody who's listening, who is somebody who's drinking excessively, is not to suddenly stop, because when you suddenly stop, you go into withdrawals, you go into delirium tremens,
Yeah.
and actually it's a high risk. So it does need to be a controlled way of
Yeah,
withdrawal.
absolutely. I totally agree. And it's also with that. Then, so I put down the alcohol, I put down the drugs, and then, of course, so this was like 15 years ago. Then everything else starts to come out. So the food. So when I went to
Yeah.
rehab, I just came out like this because I just used to just eat. So
Yes.
same way as you're wanting to have the sugar from the alcohol, the sugar that you've been so used to. I used to eat like, bags of sweets every night.
Because it gives
And
you a rush, because what alcohol was doing was it was increasing those happy chemicals in your brain, dopamine. And again, that's what your sugar rush, your carbs are doing in your brain. And that's why people put on weight as well, because it rewards. And that's what comfort eating is all about.
yeah, so it's exactly the same. Yeah. So then I would do the food and the sweets. And then after that, then I would want to get that high again. So then I was always trying to fill this void. And then I would go for shopping. And then, I mean, I didn't ever really have a gambling addiction. But, I've definitely, overspent so we
Well,
can
I
have
think all
debt
of us can relate
anonymous.
to the, well, I think all of us can relate to it a little bit. There is that high when you go shopping or
Yeah.
when you buy something, you get
Yeah, usually
excited.
mine's fearful high because I bought something and I'm trying to justify it till I get home and then I end up taking it back the next day. I do that all the time. I love the
Okay.
fix and I'm walking out of Selfridges, but I know I've got 28 days to take it back
Okay.
or 21 days. So yeah, it's fulfills all those things, isn't it? The shopping,
Yeah.
the food, and basically, it's just basically sort of living your life without a mood altering anything. It's just to sit with a feeling. And the most important thing is that when you have a feeling that you don't like, I would usually reach for something to get rid of that feeling. But if you
Okay.
sit with that feeling, because all those feelings, it can be anywhere. It can be insecure, jealousy, anger, all these feelings that we have, emotions. I would want to use on those because I didn't like that feeling. I wanted to fix that feeling. But you know what? When you sit with that feeling, 3 or 4 minutes later, it's actually gone, and you breathe through it. And it's like, look, it's not going to kill me. I'm worrying about this because also my brain wants to go, from 1 to 1 million. So if I get a bill saying, for the boiler, I'm homeless. I'm
Mm.
homeless, I'm on the streets, as I'm opening this bill. So I have all this, my brain just goes 1 to 1 million. And I think a lot of addicts are like that. We catastrophize things a lot,
Yes. Yes.
and we just sort of go straight to the fear place straight away. We don't actually sit there and go, no, it's fine. We've got
Yes.
this. It's just like, oh my God, if the doorbell goes, oh my God, it's a burglar,
Yeah.
anything just, we fire up differently.
And I think that's one of the things that also happens in perimenopause because of
Yes.
hormonal fluctuations and changes, and the neurochemical changes that happen in the brain. I think again, women get to that catastrophizing point. And somebody's just said, I get emotional after drinking wine. Yeah, you're hypersensitive, your hormones are out of kilter. Often these addictions will rear their ugly heads again because people might be leaning towards alcohol as a crutch to help them sleep, to help them calm, but then things spiral out of control. And again, it's also women who've had eating issues in the past.
Yeah.
Those kind of things can again come out in perimenopause because all of those insecurities come out, your vulnerabilities come out because you don't feel in control. And you feel more easily overwhelmed. So everything you've just described there, Meg,
Yeah.
it's almost like we need to
Yeah.
spread the word that actually it can reoccur and you need to
Yeah.
be on your guard in perimenopause in some
Yeah,
way.
I totally agree because that's what happened to me, wasn't it? I went to an AA meeting and I wanted to share, I was like, well, what the fuck? I'm here now. I don't drink. So what's the use? If I actually feel this shit, I might as well have a drink because if this is what the cards I've been dealt with, then, I might as well, have a drink. No, no, Nene, I won't have a drink. It's all right. I have my very good security guard here who keeps a very big eye on me. you know, I just basically, you know, went to that meeting, and I know lots of women will feel like this, and you will get in at night, or, you know, you just think, I just can't wait to have that glass of wine or a gin and tonic. But as we also know, as you say, you know, if you have 2 drinks a night
Yes.
or more, it really can lead to lots of breast
Well, it
cancer.
increases risk of breast cancer,
Yeah.
increases your risk of stroke, increases your risk of cancer. And I think one of the things that a lot of women
Oh,
also find is that
can I
they're
just,
very,
yeah,
yeah,
sorry, Millie.
Because I feel sick if it's so cold. We don't have any heaters, do we? Like having heaters, I can't find any.
You that cold?
Yeah.
it
Well,
is chilly.
it's because I'm always hot. You can put the heating on.
Can I?
Yes. See how
Oh,
polite my daughter is, everyone? She doesn't
I
even
know.
just go put the heating on because she knows mum will get very hot.
Yeah. No, but it is. I mean, I actually suggested that this morning to put the
Oh, you
heating
did
on
as
as
well?
well.
It's all right. Dr. Harper said let's put the heating on as well.
Yeah, I did actually. I did.
Okay, all right. So it's
I
just
did.
me because I'm so hot-blooded.
Yeah. And Mark was like, no, because
Yeah, oh, okay, so you're
he
the
likes
same
to
as
save the
Renee. She's
pennies.
like freezing.
Well, yeah, because he likes to save the pennies. But anyway, that's another
Yeah.
story. But yeah, so the other thing I was going to say
I was
is
going to
that,
tell her to put another jumper on, but I thought I just sound like my
yeah,
mum.
yeah, I,
That's what she used to always say to me. I go, it's freezing. You know, the heating used to come on like for 2 hours a day, you
yeah.
know, and I'd just be like freezing. And they'd have one open fire in the lounge, which was great. Then you used to go to your bedroom and be like, you know, and then mum would say, just put another blanket, just put another jumper on. So I
Do you
don't want
think
to
it was
sound like
because of her hormones, or do you think it was just her being a bit thrifty?
no, thrifty, definitely
Yeah,
thrifty.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Back in
okay.
those, you know, it was like you were allowed
Well,
like
not
one.
back in those days, back in here, like I
I
said,
know. I don't
I'm
know what
living
was
with a
back in
thrifty
those days.
person.
It was only like, you know, it was only about 8 years ago.
Yeah, see, Linda said her daughter's just asked the same. So, like, I think everybody's feeling the
Oh,
chill this
okay.
weekend. So yeah, so I was just saying that a lot of women also feel quite sensitive to alcohol during perimenopause, and that's because of allergies and increased histamine response. So not only is there women are feeling more sensitive to alcohol and not being able to drink red wine, and that's usually because of the sulfates within it. So sometimes I've had a couple of patients get these filtration devices to clean their red
Yes.
wine.
Yeah.
But also I think, addiction, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, come back at this point. And funny enough, I use the same sort of methods as one does with alcohol addiction. You said you wanted to talk about the 12 steps. I sort of
Yeah.
talk about that in a similar way for women with weight issues or carb addiction. I often say I'm a carb addict,
Yeah.
but the thing is, it's not as detrimental or as alcohol is, and alcohol has that such a negative effect on your health, your blood pressure, your heart, higher risk
Oh,
of cancer, stroke. So that's why it's really important to address it now. So
yeah.
go for it, Meg. Tell us about what you did
No,
in
I won't
rehab.
actually go through the 12 steps because it's
No.
basically, no, it would just be, I'm not really sort of supposed to anyway, really, to advertise sort of thing. But also it's just, it's a long process and stuff, but not
Yes,
long.
it
I
is.
don't want to put people off, but it just won't go into that detail. So basically for me, or for addiction, it's like, you need to basically, number one, the most important thing is that you recognize it
Yeah.
yourself. Like for me, when I first went into rehab, that was not because of me 15 years ago. That was because everyone else around me sort of said, Meg, I think you should go. See?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that, and it did take a few times. I did relapse because, like you said, falling off the wagon, relapse, whatever.
But you also, like you said, you have to
To
take
an
ownership of
addict.
it. You have to take
Yes. So
ownership of
it
it. If
takes,
somebody pushes you into it or even pays for you to go, it's not going
yeah,
to work
yeah,
to that
no,
same
which is
extent. So yeah.
what happened to me. It was what happened to me at that time, and I was just a bit like, oh God, I just go through this and maybe it'll get them off my back. I did think
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and I did. And I went in when I was 39, and then of course I had my 40th birthday coming up, and I remember walking around drinking Evian, but really I had vodka in it,
Okay.
because I was just like, well, why am I paying for this huge, amazing party and everybody's got an open bar and they're drinking and I've got to drink Evian? Because that's my head was like, I wasn't thinking, wow, I'm going to remember this really well. I'm going to wake up the next day, I'm going to feel amazing, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to be able to hold conversations. You know, I just wanted to get really pissed at my birthday.
Yeah.
But also I had to sort of, it was a really beautiful party, but it was hard because all I did was trying to not breathe on anyone, not really kiss anyone. I spent half the time trying to be, so
Avoid.
people wouldn't notice. It was really
Yeah.
hard work, you know, and, you know, at the end of the day, I spent my whole time spraying, eating mints. And it was like, you know, such hard work. It was like, oh, just to not have to live in that prisoner of alcohol. And, you know, it's just, it feels phenomenal.
But the thing is, that is a very common trait. It was one of the things that, in the alcohol addiction clinic I worked in, how people were saying how they hid bottles of wine, and how they, you know, as in, even when they drunk it, empty bottles, where they were hiding it, when they were putting it out to the rubbish.
And you forget.
And it becomes this kind of almost
Oh,
sneaky
so,
behavior.
oh yeah, it's awful. And you feel sneaky, and you forget where you put them, and they're in boots of, you know, clothes that you wear. They're hidden in boots. They're all, you know, it's a really, it's not, you know, it's not glamorous. It's not, even though, you know, you think, oh my gosh. So someone pointed out, like, I sort of go and have like a Buck Spears at 11 in a hotel, and then maybe go and have a, you know, you know, a coffee with a brandy in, and then have wine with lunch. But you know what? I'm just as bad as, you know, any alcoholic. Might as well sit with a can of Tennent's, you know, because basically it's the alcohol, whatever way it's coming, where it's coming from. You know, I probably think, oh, well, I look all right. I don't look homeless. I look really together. But I'm still suffering and going through what,
Yeah.
you know, that person is, you know, who's maybe living on the street. So, you know, I'm still in addiction, which is, you know, active addiction is really,
Yeah.
it's hard work. It's ugly. It's scary. It's lonely. It's, you know, it's an awful place to be in.
I think you said something really useful there. Active addiction is hard work, because
Yeah.
you spend your day thinking about one fix to another fix to another fix to another fix, planning it. And Mimi has just said she's lost her dad and finding it very hard. And I know that, because when I lost my dad, I kind of wallowed in croissants for ages and gained weight, gained weight, gained weight. I did. It was literally, I could have croissants for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's about comfort, and almost that internal hug that you want. And alcohol gives you that, like you said, that warmth, that sort of self-belief in yourself. But it is a very active process. You wake up thinking, okay, now when can I have my next one? When can I have my next one? When can I have my next one? In clinic, I had this dentist, and he used to work a few days a week, and he used to say, I knew I could drink on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. It would be out of my system, so I could work Monday afternoon, Tuesday. Then I'd start drinking again on Tuesday night, because I was going to work on Thursday. So a lot of people are what we call functioning alcoholics.
Yeah.
They are getting through, but it is very planned and organized drinking almost.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right on that. It's like it's really hard work, because you are planning all the time. You're never present. You're never present in the moment. You're always, you know, oh my gosh. I mean, you know, I used to sort of put Aeneas to bed, and race downstairs to like have a glass of wine. And sometimes I would, you know, read Cinderella and miss pages. And when she got a bit older, she'd say, "Oh, I never knew this bit of the story." Do you know what I mean? But I was just like, anyway. And she lived happily ever after. You know.
So when did you realize yourself? When did you say, I need help, you know, rather than somebody else telling you? When did you own up to it?
Because I'd sort of been to rehab, you know, it started sowing the seed.
Okay.
So you sort of, you know, sowing the seed, you know, they take you to meetings, you know, you listen to other addicts share, and you're like, oh my God, the similarities, that's so me, that's so me. And then you sort of look at people, and I think, God, I want to be like that. I want to be able to just go out and not have a drink. I want, you know, I want to be able to do all these things. So I want what that lady's got. I want, and that's what it sort of comes to. It's like, it's, you know, it's, you just see people living a sober, beautiful life, and you just think, wow, I want that. can
The
I
other
do
thing
that?
is, the other thing is, so when I used to admit patients into clinic,
Yeah.
and then I'd see them again in a month's time, they almost look totally different, because their skin looked better, their hair looked better. And I wanted them to take a picture at the beginning so they could see
Yeah.
how well they glowed up. Sometimes I didn't even recognize them.
Yeah.
And I sort of say the same thing when I see patients in clinic now with perimenopause, and I say, after a few months, I don't recognize them, that their hormones
Yeah.
are imbalanced. But it definitely was very much the case in alcohol rehab that, they just looked better. They looked less puffy. Their skin
Yeah.
looked better, and they looked less old. The aging process had
Yeah.
slowed down, and they were glowing. So,
Yeah.
so physically, outwardly, they were also looking so much better. And I honestly, sometimes I would be like, they'd say, "Hello, Dr. Harper," and I'd be like, "Do I know that person? Do
Yeah,
I?
it's
Do I?"
amazing, isn't it, when you
Yeah,
see that?
yeah.
Because my dad also worked in a rehab for many years.
Mm.
So, he was basically like, always knew you were an addict, Meg, from a very early age. I was like, really, Dad? And, it's so nice now. I even have people on on Instagram and Facebook, always send me messages about how brilliant my dad was and how he really helped them. And,
Oh,
it
okay.
makes me really happy. Yeah, he used to teach all like physical education and used to set up football matches, and they all went there, and when they're there they would just like never really even done exercise, and my dad
Mm.
is a real exercise freak, as everyone might know. So he would take them out swimming, and they would tell me all these lovely things like, your dad really believed in me, he would always take me swimming, and he always like made trophies, like, because he's an amazing carpenter, make all these brilliant trophies. And then he would get their name put on a plaque, and they would have football matches and table tennis, and they would do jogging and cross countries and stuff. And these kids and these people like from inner cities and stuff would never. And also this rehab was a government funded one. It was it was the Lady Diana. It was only one that was
Okay.
funded by the government. So there are lots of inner city kids and adults, and they would just feel so fulfilled because they'd actually done something for themselves. And he would give
Yeah.
them a thing of team building and all this stuff, and it all helps. And he would just say, within a month they would, like, the boys would be starting
Yeah.
doing weights, and they were, sometimes they were there for 3 months and stuff, but they really changed their life. So it's a bit of everything, like, which is so important to me. Just getting sober isn't just about stopping the drinking. It's about every day that you live
Because
your
then you
life.
have to fill your day with something else. You've got
Yeah.
to find a replacement. You've got to, like we said, it's an active addiction. So if
Yes.
you can't just stop drinking. You've got to then work out another way of living, and it's
Yeah.
got to be a way of life. And you've got to be doing things in the daytime. Whether it's
Yeah.
exercise, cooking, eating well. Getting a job, filling in those gaps that you were mentally spending
There's Sober
finding
Dave.
your
He's
next.
great. I've just got to say
Hi,
hi,
so
Sober Dave.
yeah, hi.
He's
So
getting all
so
of this, I'm sure.
so
So
yeah,
yeah, when you say, because if you think about it, when I was like, really in my height, I would drink every night, and that's
yeah,
a lot of hours of drinking, and then you just think, how do I go out for dinner
yeah.
without having a glass of wine? Or how am I ever going to go to a club again? How am I ever going to go to a gig again? It's all about restarting to do everything. You feel like you're just, you're like 14 or 15 again,
Yeah, yeah.
because you're having
It's
to
like
live.
learning to walk all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, because
right.
I use, like, alcohol was a crutch for me,
Yeah,
the same way drugs were, or whatever. But and then I used to know that I used to go out, and I used to just think, in the beginning I used to be like sort of a bit nervous or whatever. I could even be with my really good friends, but I'd so relied on this alcohol to even mix with my close friends that I remember I used to just eat the bread basket really quickly. I mean, I used to notice I just be like that, just as long as I was fulfilling that void.
yeah. So,
And yeah.
did you feel under pressure to drink at all when you were with your friends? Somebody asked earlier, did you feel under pressure to drink with your friends? And the other thing, from my perspective, how did you feel when you stopped drinking? When you used to go out, did you feel like the odd one out, or did you feel,
No, I think without me really knowing, which I thought was, oh, I'm just sort of not really fitting in. Everybody was like, oh, thank God Meg's not drinking tonight.
okay?
So you know, and even when I used to think, well, the person that's telling me that, I thought they were really off the scale. So what was I really like? You know, I was that messy girl that, you know, was a liability when you went out, who was the
Okay.
loudest, who would stay up the longer, you know, you know, I was a liability really when I think back, you
Because
know.
if I think about it, you can feel under pressure to drink when you go out
Yeah,
with
of course.
friends
I know
because
people that ask me all the time, how do you do? You know, a friend of mine who had a baby and, you know, kept it hidden, she would just do sparkling apple juice, you know, in her champagne glass, you know, and was basically would always make it look like she had a drink.
and
And
that's what I say to some of my patients
yes,
because they say to me, it's really hard. We go out socially. What do we do? And because I've grown up not drinking and almost having to learn some of these tricks, like having
yes,
sparkling water with a slice of lemon, and because when you say to somebody you don't drink, they think you're boring or you can't possibly be fun. So you kind of wing it and pretend your way through. So exactly like you
yes,
said, having sparkling apple juice
yeah, just
in a champagne glass. Although, you know, you shouldn't have to
you
pretend.
shouldn't have to,
Sometimes
but
it's just
you know what
easier and you
happens
do it
is
rather than
people don't think
explain.
you're fun anymore. I
Yes, yes,
understand that. There's a lot of peer pressure when you're young and you're growing up doing, you know, with this, and I can understand. But also when people are getting drunk and you're not getting drunk, they want you to get drunk with them
yeah,
because they basically don't like it when someone is sober around them.
yeah,
So, you know, I would you know, when someone is coming round and, you know, I put my hand over the wine glass, people just go, what? You're not
yeah.
drinking? You know, like shocked. And there is pressure, but, you know, I would make excuses. I would say, oh, no, I'm on antibiotics or something
Mm,
just to take the conversation away from me because it would just feel too much. Or I'd
yeah.
say, oh, I've got a really early morning tomorrow. You know, just really, you know, you can just sort of defer it. You don't have to get into, you know, um, why you're not drinking
I
if
mean,
you're not
I
ready
did used
to.
to say, it's against my religion
There is
because I
not.
just thought that might
Yes,
just
there is.
help. But I mean, but now I do drink champagne, so it's absolutely okay now. But I mean, so everything's got into a balance. But I
Yeah.
think also what can happen as we grow older, you become stronger in yourself. You know,
Yes.
you feel that you can be yourself, you can express it. You don't have to live up to other people's sort of images,
Yeah.
and you can speak out. And I think that's something we both have experienced in our
Yeah.
journey of life, you know,
Yeah.
of
Really.
finding ourselves. And that's what's really important, that we're sharing this with other women, because we know during that perimenopause that it can be quite a tricky,
Yeah.
challenging
It's
journey to
very.
go through. And alcohol is something that a lot of women say, oh, look, you know, we're using it to help us to relax, using it to help us to
Yeah.
sleep. But, you know, not only is it addiction, but it's also those empty calories you're putting in your body. So if you're worried about your weight, if you're worried about that
Yeah.
midlife spread, then actually what you're doing is you're putting this alcohol in, which basically is sugar, which is
Yeah.
basically sugar,
Basically.
and it's being stored around the middle because our hormones are not in that normal balanced way
Yeah.
that it used to be. So yeah, and we're growing older. So what does this say?
That was
Anyone here have to have gallbladder removed? This and menopause itself. So
it.
so I'll just touch
Yeah. I
upon that.
don't know
Yeah. So
anything about a gallbladder.
that's very common when you're about around the age of 40. And we usually sort of say it's, you know, if you're 40, you're fertile. And often it's women who are overweight as well tend
Yeah.
to have gallstones and gallbladder disease. So, yes, it is a common thing in 40, you know, when around the age of 40, late 30s, early 40s. So, again,
Oh,
cut back on alcohol, try and manage your weight, and those are things that you can start to do yourself. Yeah.
without talking.
Okay.
Yeah, I stopped drinking and my nights were legendary. Menopause with alcohol gave me the worst downers. Absolutely. I agree with
And
you
hot flushes
100%.
and night sweats. So the thing
Yeah.
is, you know, menopause with alcohol is going to exacerbate your hot flushes. It's going to give you downers. You know, people think it helps you to sleep, but actually
No,
it becomes a
I
vicious
always
circle,
woke up.
and it, yeah.
Yeah, because you have like an active liver. I always used to wake up. I never had a good night's sleep. You might fall asleep, you know, for an hour just, but it's not a proper sleep, everyone. It's like, you know, I'd be restless. I would sweat. you know, it's like even one glass of wine, but I mean, I never
Palpitations.
did one, so let's not say that, because, you know, I never did one. I'd say a couple of drinks was probably about 8, you know, so it was not a couple of drinks ever. So, but with the perimenopause and the menopause, you know, you feel so rough, you know. And then the thing is, like you were saying, I'm talking very openly about this now because I feel this is the time, and I feel empowered, and I feel like I'm 54 and I'm able to talk about this. But you know, 10 years ago I wouldn't have talked about this, but I just feel that I could handle whatever, you know, people would say, because I think 10 years ago people would probably pick up on this, and they would be like, oh my God, she's an addict, she's an alcoholic. It was, you know, I think it is the time to talk about this and being open. And if I talk about my journey, may help, and you
It
can
help
talk
others.
about it, we help others, because it's a very lonely, there's a lot of shame around it, and that's the other reason. Like I say, I take antidepressants with the shame to talk about the menopause with you, talk about addiction with you, whatever it is.
HRT, you know, everything.
Everything.
Testosterone, libido, sex.
Yeah, everything. There's, you know, we have a lot of shame around it, and us talking about this can really, you know, we can, you know, we can help.
It helps other women, and I think it helps make it more relatable, understanding that you're not alone. You know, lots of people go through it in some ways. You know, someone is in the public eye, you know, talking about it. Someone as a doctor sort of openly saying it can be challenging. I think it's really informative and helpful for a lot of women to know that they're not alone actually going through this.
Friends, how do you cope with friends who drink too much now? Okay, so that's quite easy. I call it the witching hour. So I know when, you know, I can go out and have dinner, and then it's sort of around 11 o'clock when someone starts repeating the story again and again next to me, and really starting to touch me a lot, and really close
Time to go
the
home.
face, and it's a lot louder, and everything in the room gets louder, and I get more sensitive to it. I just sneak off. I don't even say bye.
Me too. I just kind of just ghost out. Phase out.
And then when people call
Nobody
and they
knows.
go, so, and you know, they can't remember, and they say, what time did you leave? And I just say, oh, I don't know, about midnight. I really didn't. I left at 10, but I know they can't even remember.
Oh my God, Meg, I do exactly that. I'm usually gone by 10, 10:30, and then I think,
Yeah,
am I
me
boring?
too, 10, 10,
But
30.
and I just kind of fade away. So
Yeah,
I
I
don't
fade
even
away. I don't
I
do
don't
the
even
big
go.
bye. No,
No.
you know,
Oh wow, yeah, I
because
do exactly that.
yeah, I do the same. I just
Yeah.
sneak off quietly, and no one ever knows. And they're not going to say the next day because they're really embarrassed because they can't even remember you leaving.
Yeah, exactly,
You know,
exactly. Oh, that's
so
really good.
I just always do. I just think, don't make a big deal about leaving, because then it's like, oh, don't leave, and they couldn't even care less whether you stayed or not, because they're just like, no, don't go, and then they carry on talking to someone else. But I mean, you know, there is triggers. So, you know, you keep what I find is that, you know, like hotel rooms were a big trigger to me. Spend a lot of my time. So before I get to a hotel, not that I've been lately, but I would always get them to clean the minibar out and only leave water in there. And even take all the sweets out, because, you know, in a minibar in a hotel, I go straight away and I look what chocolate they've got, what sweets they've got, what nuts they've got. I look for that. And then there would also be, there'd be all the alcohol. So I would just say, take it out. So I just, you know, always just looking after yourself, because this brain can change any point. There's only a difference between there and there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you've worked out methods that you know work for you, like emptying the minibar, like you said last week, asking the chef not to put too much salt and you know, sort of seasoning on your food, you know, keeping it clean. So I think it does take people a journey to get there. Sometimes they do need a push, and they may well relapse, but don't beat yourself up about it, because sometimes it takes a few goes to get there. And this is a very I think challenging time during perimenopause, hormonal changes. And what I was going to say was, if there are people with hormone issues who've also got alcohol, weight issues, things like that, do come and see me if you can. We can help, and I hope this talk has helped a lot as well.
Sure,
and it's been lovely. It's been lovely talking to you.
Been clean? Quite a while. Quite a while. I think just one day at a time, everyone, not how many years. I just take each day at a time. You have to, because as they say, your addiction is always there. It's not, you know, I've made the mistake of thinking, okay, maybe I
No,
could go back to normal drinking because I haven't drunk for ages,
no.
you know, and maybe the first few times drink it does, but it slowly creeps right back in.
Because personalities, addictive personalities, tend to be all or nothing
Yeah,
personalities. So it's almost like
absolutely.
even if you open a packet of biscuits, you've got to finish it to the end.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
if you open a bar of chocolate, you've got to finish it to the end. You know, those kind of things.
Yeah,
So I think even though you might not have had any alcohol to drink for years, months,
yeah,
weeks, it's almost like, and you think, oh, I can safely have one. It's a slippery slope,
yeah.
and most people tend to then
Go
slip back
straight
into it.
back, or even
Yeah,
more so than you
yeah,
were. I
yeah.
mean, as we say, I was saying, we just said, you know, the addiction, why you're stopped is doing press ups on your shoulder. It's always getting stronger. It never goes away. So why
Okay.
that is just getting stronger. So whenever you go back to trying to do anything normally, like you said, you know, if I go and have one piece of toast and Marmite, it's never one. Even that is
No,
not one.
no,
You
no.
know, and I also, the thing, I have different trigger foods. So mine are always like fat. So I have cashew nuts. You know, if I have 3 or 4 cashew nuts, then boom, you know, I
I
have
mean,
to stop
my
myself.
and relationships, you know, I mean, all or nothing, you know, everything,
Yes, I
all or
know. I'm
nothing.
always getting engaged.
I hope you get to keep the ring then.
Yeah. Should we,
So no,
are you
wrap it
looking
up.
at your partner?
No, he's not
Oh,
done. No, I'm actually doing a training session, so I'm just thinking I better go
oh,
and get
yeah.
sorted out and
Okay.
go and do
Creating new
some
habits
exercise.
is so hard, but so valuable. Yes, absolutely. Well, guys, it was really, I love doing that, Dr. Harper.
Me too, me too. It's been
Okay.
lovely and lovely to see you as well.
And
Oh, I
you
was going to
too.
say,
Yeah.
I'm doing the Cheltenham Virtual Festival Live Life Well, and I've got 10 tickets to give away. So if
Oh,
you want, anybody wants to sort of enter, then do
yeah.
go
What should
over
they
and
do?
sign up. Just go over to my Instagram and then they have to send their email in and we'll
Okay.
pick
That
10
sounds
tickets out.
good.
Yeah.
All right.
And so, or happy hormones. Bye bye.
Okay. See you later. Bye, Dr.
Bye.
Harper. Bye. Okay.